finishing the race strong. When I was a young man in high school, I ran cross country as well as the 440 and 880 meter race in track. I learned quickly that life was much like running track, in that endurance, perseverance, and not looking back at where your competitor is, but keeping your eyes focused on the finish line. Today I want to show you through Hebrews 12 what it means to run the race God has for our lives, that's you and I, and the importance of keeping our eyes on the race and not getting off track. So let's get started. Hey, welcome back, everybody. I'm your host, Steve Garofalo. This is Reason for Truth. You know Reason for Truth, where the truth always comes first, reasons come last, but we're always and constantly learning, because when we stop learning, we stop teaching, or at least stop teaching well. Listen, we live in a world it's very competitive in just about every realm, every sector of life, from the birth order we're born into to our career. And at the end of our life, we won't take away any of our worldly races that we win, to be honest with you, or lose. The only thing we're going to take with us is how we glorified God on earth through and how we responded and handled both our victories and our defeats. So let's take a look at Hebrews 12. If you'd like to turn there now, we're going to look at verses 1 to 13. But in Hebrews 12, 1 to 13, we see the theme of perseverance in running the Christian life, the race that begins in chapter 10, verse 32. And if you read carefully, you can see the importance of exhortation to persevere in the race as the central component in finishing the race strong. It's one thing to start. Everybody starts strong. Most people do. Yeah, listen, a lot less people finish strong. You also see the biblical command of endurance. Let's stop, though. Hold on a second. The Oxford Dictionary, I looked it up. What does it say endurance is? Well, in the noun form, enduring is really an unpleasant or difficult process or situation without giving way. That's pretty, I think, good here, biblically speaking. Now, in its adjective form, it defines endurance as denoting or relating to a race or other sporting event that takes place over a long distance or otherwise demands great physical stamina. Simply put, endurance is what we do in perseverance, which is what we do through the hard things in life. All things, whether it's a promotion, whether it's running a physical race and track, playing football, you name it. There's an old saying that says, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. Don't hear that a lot anymore. I guess no one really, chooses upon themselves to embrace with the tough times. We used to embrace the tough times. That's what made us tough. I come from that generation. New generation is tough times are politically incorrect, so get a comfort dog to take you around. I don't know. The problem in 2023 is that many, if not most, Christians are out of shape, spiritually speaking, or no longer tough. So they choose, or unable really, in their current state, to be willing to do any more. And in Hebrews 12:1 and throughout the Bible, we find the word therefore, which is, when you see the word therefore, you want to stop, because it's like someone saying, hey, listen to me. Therefore, which is, that should again stop us in our tracks. It's emphasizing what the writer is about to say is very important, so listen. Now, in today's passage, God makes clear that we are to endure the faith in order to finish the race strong, and the therefore is coming up here. This is foreign, certainly for most Christians, I think. Certainly in America and Europe, people don't want to be told anything, by anybody. But for Christians in America and Europe, due to the long-standing freedom we've experienced, we've taken it for granted. The main verse I want to focus on is Hebrews 12:1, as I said, which says this: therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us always lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set out before us. Hebrews 12:1. Notice 12:1 opens with therefore. I'm getting back to that, which means pay attention to what I'm about to say. The main point is, let us run with endurance the race that is set out before us. Now, first, the author likens the Christian life to running a race. It's important because I think most of us have run a race of some kind, hopefully not illegally on the road with our vehicles. That's bad. There's too many in the West that are spiritually out of shape in this area. They find it very difficult to run the race. And it has nothing to do with physical shape. A lot of times people are in good physical shape, but they're spiritually out of shape. I want to think about that. Second, notice that there's a start and finish point here. All races have a start and a finish point. And in any race, both the start and the finish point requires great effort and the clear path for the runner to get to in order for them to successfully finish the race. So to run the race is to run with endurance. The capacity, it means to continue to bear up under difficult circumstances. It means when the tone gets tough, the tough gets going. That means the tough are the people who are tough. So I want to shift gears now and define the biblical terms in today's passage in Hebrews. First, Hebrews 12:1 opens with, remember, we have so great a cloud of witnesses surrounding us. So who are these heroes? Well, for example, they're referring to the heroes of the faith in chapter 11. You can go back and read that. And by the way, there's lots of heroes in this chapter 11 and 12 and throughout the whole Bible. Okay, so we as believers today must follow their examples in faith by keeping on, persevering, and enduring. And if we do this, listen, we can look at others. It's been proven that we can do this because so many in the Bible have already done this before. Countless people throughout the Bible. It's number one. Number two, second, the word every weight is speaking about anything that hinders a runner. All right. Today, you don't run a race you wear the lightest clothing, the lightest tennis shoes. And today, you're right, because compared to yesterday, it might be these new high-tech, lightweight tennis shoes. Poor quality, heavy shoes are going to cost you. You get down to a fraction of a second. Losing the race or even the fear of one's opponent can throw you off. Every weight in verse 2 is referring to that which is whatever hinders you and me. And every believer from winning the race for God set out before us. Another way to understand this is for us to lay aside every encumbrance or moral hindrance that makes endurance harder, especially the sin or of unbelief, which is what easily entangles us. 12:1. There's a lot. I didn't get into it. I actually had developed it, but I took it out. But sin is a big part of this entire presentation today, or this episode, is the understanding that sin is probably the greatest thing that's going to impede us from winning the race, okay, in one form or the other. That's number two. Third, as believers, we are to run, fixing our eyes on Jesus. 12:2, example, by relying on him to enable us to persevere, right? That's a key thing. We have to rely on him to get us through the finish line and finish strong. One of the most important elements of winning a track race is not to look back or look to the right or the left or wherever our opponent is, but we're to focus on and that's I didn't know that, by the way, when I ran my race, but that's the truth. We look forward. It's number 3. Fourth, another reason to endure is that Jesus himself endured. Look, and many people, other godly people in the Bible, they endured as well. You can read about that in 12:3. In order for you and I to finish the race strong, we must be willing and able to endure the hostility dished out on us from a sinful world. We must be able to, correct our sin as we go along and listen to the Spirit who convicts us. 12:1 says, let us also lay aside every weight, remember, and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus. We need to be able to do that. We need to be able to self-govern in that sense, be astute to what God is saying. Going back to when I was a young man in high school running cross-country with the 440 and 880, especially the 880, I'm not that fast from the short, so I did better in 880 than I did in the 440. My number one opponent was, I think his name was Daryl. We were good friends. And he had a coach, I guess. I didn't know that to that point, or someone had coached him anyways. I mean, that coach gave him one singular piece of wisdom, which I wasn't aware of. He said, Daryl, don't look back, don't look to your right, or don't look to your left. And just run forward. So for a lack of wisdom and good coaching, I looked back and see, where was Daryl? He just looked at me, and I couldn't help it. I didn't have the strength because I had taken off quickly. And he came right past me, and he won. I came in second. And then when I was done, he and a bunch of other people said, why did you look back? You probably would have won if you just would have looked forward. Listen, I can tell you that running the Christ-led race in life is much like running that track meet that I did. It's endurance, perseverance, and not looking back, not looking to the left or to the right, looking forward towards the prize. Keep your eyes focused on Christ, on the peak. All right. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. Hebrews 12:1. And listen, you and I must keep our eyes focused on the finish line, on the final prize to get across that line. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is what it means to finish the race strong. Listen, in closing, if you'd like to copy this transcript, you can just go ahead, join my community at steviegarofalo.com. But before you go, make sure, boom, hit the Gancio Sinistro. Want to see some upticks and some subscriptions. Subscribe to the channel, hit the alert bell. And listen, when you're all said and done, make sure, again, you join my community, steviegarofalo.com. Let's make sure we endure. And God's blessings to you. And we'll see you at the next video. I'm your host, Stevie Garofalo. This is your Reason for Truth for today.